Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here in my home in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, you all are doing well and you're having a good start to your week. It's Tuesday. And I'm just kind of settling back into things. Originally, I was going to try to go over to the cottage today and do the live from there, but I had a little bit of a headache earlier, so I was like, I'm just going to rest and then so when I woke up, it was time to do the live. So here we are. Hopefully you all are having a little bit better. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but it's kind of like just normal life for me now. I have sinus issues and sometimes that gives me a headache. So anyways, we're here now. And yeah, so one of the other things that I've been doing is I've been trying to tidy up the house a little bit and clean up some of my work areas. And so I've been finding stuff. And some things I found are things that we did for special events, but for whatever reason, they didn't really take off, or we had planned to launch certain things and it just didn't happen for whatever reason. Um, so I kind of wanted to do part of this as a kind of a rewind, but also as a way to like kind of, maybe relaunch some things that we had started, but then didn't really have a chance to do. So maybe we'll see. We'll just play it by ear, y'all. All right. See a couple people tuning in. Harry's watching. Hey, Harry. Deborah's watching. Hi, Deborah. Marianne's watching. Hi, Marianne. Julie's watching. Hey, Julie. Amanda's watching. Hey, Amanda. June's watching. Hey, June. Norma's watching. Hey, Norma. Did I already say Norma? Well, hello again. Michelle's watching. Hey, Michelle. And Sharon's watching. Hey, Sharon. Yeah, if you're watching, say hello. Maybe say where you're from. It's always nice to see our AGB fam kind of hanging out. It's always nice to kind of hear where people are from in case you make a friend who is, local to you. Or sometimes, one of the things that has happened before is people are like, oh, well, I am from blah, blah, blah. And then somebody's like, well, I'm going there this summer. And then they make a point of meeting up. And it's always nice when that happens. So I like it. And yeah. So, we got some more. Julie's watching from Washington State. Kathy is tuning in from sunny Oregon. I haven't been to Oregon in a long time, and I would like to go. I have a bunch of friends there, and there's a bunch of like minerals and stuff that I kind of want to dig up. I kind of want to do this thing where we go on a road trip, and this is probably not going to happen for at least a long time, or at least not for, I don't know, because we have kittens now, so I can't just like up and abandon my little baby daughter cats. But I kind of want to go on a road trip and like travel through the country and pick up different specimens and do things like that. But maybe one day we'll see. William's watching on his way home, or listening rather, not watching because he's driving. So and Susan's watching from Upper Michigan. Nice. So anyways, we have been super busy. Today I kind of took it easy because like I said earlier, my head was a little bit hurting. And so I took some, I don't know, is it smoky still where y'all are? I kind of feel like with the heat and sometimes the smoke and stuff, it just is just, I don't know. I have to have a lie down. And then I work usually at night. So that's what I do usually when it's nice and cool and it's, anyway, so Norma's says she's in Nicholsville, Kentucky, just south of Lexington. I actually need to go to Lexington, hopefully, to pick up some tools, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that or not. But I would like to, because there's a jewelry store that is going, they retired, and so there's a bunch of equipment there that I have an eye on. One of the things that I want after this weekend is a ring stretcher. And sometimes I see those come up on Facebook Marketplace, and so I would like to get one. So I need to save up for that, among other things. Marion says we had a lot of rain earlier, so the smoke is gone, at least temporarily. I don't know. For us, it's still kind of hazy out, but it could be anything really. This is that kind of summer haze weather. And yeah, so what else? So if you didn't see, Jen did a really cool tutorial that's on our YouTube channel, Allegory Gallery's YouTube channel, and that debuted on Sunday morning. If you didn't have a chance to see that, definitely catch up and watch, because that's a fun one. I've seen a couple people watch and make stuff using that video. If you do make stuff, post it in the Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group. We always like to see what people are making using either our products or tutorials or ideas or inspiration. And yeah, I like it. It's nice to be able to share. It's a really lovely, positive group, and most people are super supportive. Cindy said that she liked and shared. Thank you so much. Susan says, yeah, it looks hazy in the window behind you. That could also be because our window's dirty, but it is hazy. I'm just gonna roll with that and not add another chore to my list this week. But it's kind of hazy and kind of gross. I don't know. I try not to harp on people's fun, because I know some people are like, I love summer, but I love some aspects of summer, but it's not my season for sure. Yeah. So what else we got? So yesterday, if you didn't see, William I was in the background, but William did the gemstone sale and had some crystal and different things like that. If you did not get a chance to get your order in before now, unfortunately, the promotional sale price is no more. I mean, if you get it in like now, it's not gonna, we're not gonna be like, oh no, you were 20 seconds late. At least I won't. But anyways, so he showed that yesterday. And yeah, so over the weekend, I had a really wonderful opportunity. I won a scholarship to the Baltimore Jewelry Center to take a workshop with Eric Burris, who is on Instagram. His handle is Mocha Magane Workshops. And he's a really cool person. It's so funny when you realize how small the world is. When we were up in Providence, we drove up, so we had our minivan, and one of our friends was flying back, and they had all this table display for a show that they do. So if you've never heard of SNAG, it's the Society of North American Goldsmiths. And at first, when I heard about SNAG originally, I was like, well, I'm not a goldsmith, so that's not really for me. But then when I dug a little deeper, I realized that it's not just for goldsmiths. And actually, there are only like a handful of goldsmiths who go. And I was really fortunate to work with Stacy Rogers, who was the president, the most recent president of SNAG. And she was like, no, you should join. So we joined, and then we went up to Providence for their convention, or their conference, which the next one is going to be in San Diego in 2024. So I need to start saving up. Either that or it's going to be an epic road trip across the country. And it's been a hot minute since I've been to San Diego, but I always really enjoyed it. So, like there's Balboa Park and the Menge Museum. And if I go, I'm going to try to tack on at least a couple days to explore. So anyway, we were at the conference in Providence, and my friend had all this table display because they do a show. It's like a pop-up exhibition, and so they give like a table to each of the people, and then you like put your stuff up, and you have to get curated into it. But anyways, they had a bunch of stuff, and instead of forcing them to fly home with all of this table display, we were going to the same place. So I said, "Oh, we'll just drive it." And so we were trying to get in, maneuver when at the end of the conference, and I was there for Touchstone. I'm on the board at Touchstone, and I volunteered to do their information table there. So I had a bunch of their stuff, and we had our luggage, and we had the stuff for our friend who was there. And so this guy, he's like, "Oh, you guys look like you need help." And we're like, "Yeah, we do." And so this random stranger person helped us load our car up and trek across the convention center and down through the labyrinth of like all the halls and mazes of that. And then I didn't realize who it was. So I thought it was funny that he would end up being one of my teachers. And so I took a workshop with him on making mokumagane, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a Japanese technique of layering metal. And you can do different combinations of metal, but I did copper and silver. And you layer them up, and then you fuse the layers together. I'm doing the Cliff Notes version of this, and then you make a billet. And a billet is like a piece of metal that you then forge into other stuff. That billet, you distort and manipulate that billet, and then it creates patterns, which are kind of like the look of what mokumagane is. And so then once you have that done, you pound everything out, and it turns into sheet metal, maybe, because you can do other things to it. But I made sheet metal, and then you do whatever you want with it after that. So that's what I did this past weekend, and I really enjoyed it. I feel very fortunate for the opportunity to take the workshop. The Baltimore Jewelry Center is awesome. It's over 3,000 square feet of all kinds of jewelry goodness. It's pretty much got anything you could want related to making jewelry. They have a library, which I think my library is a little bit more. It's a little bit bigger, which I don't know what that says, but about me, I'm like, oh my, I have more books. But yeah, so they have a nice library there of jewelry making things. They have, I think, 20 something benches, maybe more. All of the benches have boredoms and flex shafts. There's an enameling section. There's a huge soldering area where there's tons of different torches, and there's stuff for patinas and for just all kinds of goodness. And then they have a forming room, so there are stakes and grinders and all kinds of stuff, hammers galore. Which their stake collection, I was like a little bit covetous of it because there was just so many of them. And for me, I've been trying to find more stakes, but the thing about stakes is that they don't make a lot of them anymore, and so they're just not a lot of stakes. And so And steaks, I'm not talking about like a cow steak or a beef steak or whatever. I'm talking about a metal form that you use to raise or shape metal. And so they have a bunch of different steaks, and they don't really make them anymore, at least not commercially. Like back in the day, I don't know what they were using these for. I'm guessing for making cups and like tin smithing and copper smithing back in the day. Um, but so they use those for making a lot of times vessels, and so they don't make those steaks anymore. So it's kind of hard to find them. And I looked at an old catalog, and one of the catalogs are like $50. And they're like, we know this is an investment, but this is an investment that will last a lifetime. And now they're not $50. They're, maybe for like a little tiny one. But yeah. So, anyways, so I got to go there. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I had a really great time. Eric is a very patient and knowledgeable instructor. And also, he makes tools to make your job easier. So he's done these Mokumagane billets so many times that he knows like the common problems that come up. And so he's designed little tools to help making it easier. Like there's this one thing that's like a jig that you put your metal in to clean it. And it's so clever because, it does what you need it to do, and you don't get a bunch of oil on it, and it's really handy. So if you ever get a chance to take a workshop with him, I definitely encourage you to do so. He's out of the Maryland area, but he teaches all over. He like maybe 2 weeks ago, he taught at Touchstone. Unfortunately, I couldn't take the class there because it was a 5-day class, so it would have been more time. But I had some scheduling conflicts and unfortunately couldn't attend. And then, anyways, so then I'm trying not. I got all of a sudden this like wave of sinus pressure. But anyway, um, uh, yeah, so he's going to be teaching in Colorado coming up soon, I think in a week or two. So if you're in Colorado in the Littleton area, look him up. Like I said earlier, his name on Instagram is Mokumagane Workshops, all one word, all lowercase. And yeah, so I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to show you what I made, and then we're going to launch into our demo. How about that? You're going to see the ceiling for a second or so. See, look how clean the table is. I see a couple more people have tuned in. Let's see, who all is here? Kathy says, me either. Love the fall. Me too. Shakita says, hello. Howdy. Dennis is watching. He's a local. Howdy. Kathy says that the acid etch agates would love a strand if there's any left. Yeah, if you want them, I don't do any of the spreadsheets. I am pretty much useless when it comes to that. So if you are interested, send an email to info@allegorygallery.com if you have not done so already. Otherwise, if you leave comments, it's like it never happened. And I hate it to be like that, but there's a system in place for a reason, and that is so that there's a paper trail, and that way everything William can invoice you and get anything to you. And there's like a whole thing. Like Barb can check the emails and cross-reference stuff. If you tell me, it's like it never happened. So if you are interested in those etched agate beads, be sure to email us at info@allegorygallery.com. And, if there's some left over, he'll send you an invoice and get you all settled up and hopefully get them to you right away. All right. And I know that it's a little bit more work, sometimes. Um, with some of the live sales that I've seen people, they do comment claims and stuff. And with some of the other things, we do that if there's like a picture. But for videos, it's just so hard because you have to like stop and you have to like rewind the videos. And we stream to about 6 different places when we do these live videos. So it's super hard to track down where somebody claimed and who was first and all that kind of business. So it's just easier to do the email. All right. Bonnie's watching. Hey Bonnie. She's been making pickles. Tina's watching. Hey Tina. Sharon says it's like it never happened. It's correct. I'm being honest with y'all. And some people, they like to pretend like they do everything. I definitely don't do everything, and it's a good thing that I don't do everything, because if I had to do everything, we'd probably no longer be in business. So there was a point where in the very beginning I did everything, and I pretty much had a nervous breakdown once a week. So it's a good thing that we no longer do that, because then it would be the infinite sadness, and nobody likes that. Other Julie's watching. Hey, Julie. Michelle says the table is too clean. I know. Anyways, I tried to clean up before I went on the trip so that William was not horrified. And I'm going to try to be better about keeping things organized from here on out. But we'll see. So this is the piece of Mokumagane that I made. This is the pattern. So I made this by drilling into it, and it started off, it was like this big. And then you stack it up, and then you fuse it together using these torque plates and these special furnaces. And then you grind everything down. And mine got a little bit overheated because I was the last to go. And so the mini furnace was a little bit hot, and it kind of made stuff slump a little. I was kind of worried because I was like, what happens if if my thing gets destroyed, then have 2 more days of class. But luckily we were able to salvage it. And then the little billet, then I drilled holes into it, which causes this kind of like raindrop pattern. And then I ground into it. Which I kind of regret doing that, to be honest. To be perfectly 100% honest, I regret doing that because it kind of broke up some of the pattern. And I kind of, that I was a mistake for me. But oh well, it was my first time and I'm learning. I don't think it turned out bad necessarily. It's just, I don't know. There's certain things that so if you manipulate it in certain ways, it has a different effect. So you can carve into it, you can grind into it, and you can do all kinds of stuff. You can make patterns and be more specific about it. And what I did kind of broke up one of the kind of qualities of that raindrop pattern, and it made it kind of blocky a little bit. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it kind of chopped it up, and I kind of don't enjoy that. But ultimately, I'm probably going to cut these things down into little tiny little segments, so you're not going to actually see that much anyway. Um, And then after we made our sheet, he showed us how to make these washer rings, which are super cool. Oh, and if somebody wants to see the back, so I also made a mistake here where I I think what I had done is I quenched it or I put it in the pickle pot while it was too hot still, and it caused a crack here. And every time you heat it up and anneal it and manipulate it and run it through the rolling mill, the crack kind of grows. So what I did is I kind of ground down the crack, and I think that's cool. But this is the silver kind of background, and you know, that's designed so that if you make this into a ring, it's going to be all silver on the inside, and the copper won't touch your skin. Um, Copper rings are great, but sometimes if your acidity's off or whatever, it can cause your finger to turn green. So, and then some people are allergic to that. So, the sterling silver on the inside is meant as to be like a barrier for that. Anyways, that's what that's designed for. But if I make a ring, that will be useful. If I don't make a ring, if I do other stuff with it, then it doesn't really matter. But anyways, I have some ideas for this. So I'm going to keep making these different sheets. I need to order some kiln bricks that I'm going to then turn into my own mini furnace. He sells them, but I'm on I mean, they're very affordable for what they are and what you can do with them, but I kind of want to make it myself because I am a little bit masochistic like that. And I'm like, "Oh, I can do that too." So I'm going to try to make my own, and we'll see if it works out. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then I'll order one from him. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to order that, and there's a special drill bit that I want. I've been wanting it for a while, so I kind of think it's perfect timing, and I wanted it for something else. So this is gonna be, I don't know, it's the stars aligning, y'all. But anyway, so that's what I did over the weekend, and I'm going to do some stuff to it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. I put a poll on my Instagram page. That's Andrew Thornton Artist. Somebody looked up my Instagram page, Andrew T Thornton 100, and that's basically where I post pictures of flowers and cats. So, and I don't post flowers and cats as much as I used to. And one of my business mentors, I used to put everything together, and she was like, "I don't know what I'm looking at." She's like, "Do you sell plants? Because if you sell plants, then that's great. But if you don't sell plants, then it's kind of confusing." So I separated them out. And so I have my own personal kind of Instagram. And then I have my Instagram for just my artwork stuff. So, anyways, that's what I have going on there. And then after after the workshop, I drove up to a town outside of Philadelphia, and I picked up a bench for Butcher Block Gallery. We're doing it all kind of on a budget, and so I'm trying to save money wherever I can. So I found one on Facebook Marketplace, and it was super affordable, and it was almost brand new, untouched, hardly. And so I thought that that was a good deal and worth it. So after the class, I drove up to around Philadelphia and I took I-95, which I don't know if y'all are familiar with I-95, but if ever the GPS ever tells me to go on I-95 and it's not like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm just going to not go on that route, because even if it takes longer, because it was crazy, y'all. It was crazy. So I guess a storm had rolled through at some point while I was in class, and there was all these accidents. I mean, I must have passed 6 or 7 accidents on that I-95, and then there was also construction. So it added an extra hour onto the trip. And um, which I think I was lucky because if I had hit it at like slightly later or slightly earlier, it would have been even worse, and I could have maybe been in one of those accidents. So knock on wood, I didn't get involved, but um, yeah, and then I drove back. So it was a very long day, but I'm almost finished with our book on tape or audiobook for this month's book club, which is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. So if you want to participate in that, there's still time. Our meeting is, it's an online virtual meeting. I believe it's on the 30th. Boeing will have to correct me if I'm wrong. It's listed on the website, but I'm on my phone right now, so I can't really see. But so, anyways, we are. Um, I'm almost finished with it. So I guess there are some perks to that. At one point, I ended up having to turn it off and turn on some music because I was getting a little bit tired. But yeah. So, anyways, Mocha Magane, metal, picked up a bench, drove across the state, and then yeah. So one of the things that I did is I brought um, that sculpture that I had started the other day on the live, and you can clearly see I did not get very far. So the one day we got out of class and it was almost midnight, and I was so exhausted after traveling all day and driving through a thunderstorm in the mountains, and then being in class and being on my feet all day and walking and stuff, and just like I just fell asleep. So I did not work on this at all, hardly. But I did get a little bit done. So there you go. That's what I got done. Bonnie says, I can't wait to see what you do with the polymer metal piece. This is not polymer. This is copper and silver. When I originally did Mocha Magane, I used polymer clay because I didn't know how to do this form. But when you do it with polymer clay, it's basically the same thing, except you can do it in your oven at home and not and not have to do it otherwise. This is a lot. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this. Let me just tell you, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with it. And doing that in polymer clay is way easier. So maybe I'll show a demo on how to do the polymer clay Mocha Magane, because I can do that. um, I don't feel comfortable showing how to do the technique in metal, and also I wouldn't want to do that because that's how Eric makes his livelihood, is traveling around the country, or it's one of the ways that he makes a living. So I would feel really bad about like taking all his secret inventions and then posting on the internet. But so I won't be showing how to do it in metal, but maybe I'll do it in polymer because it's a little bit of a different technique. So anyway, so there's that. Anyway, so this is what I am doing, or I showed on Friday, or was it Friday, Thursday? I can't remember what day it was, but I showed how to make an armature out of tinfoil and painter's tape. And so I painted the painter's tape so that it would have this color, because sometimes you can see through the cracks in this. Norma says, I lived in the DC area for 9 years, and I-95 is always insane. For 2 years, I commuted about 60 miles each way to work on it. Yeah, I don't know. I give you props for that, because I would have lost my mind. Because I was not, I only had to do it for a little bit, and I was like, oh my goodness. June says she would like to see the Mocha Magana polymer clay. Okay, well maybe I'll do that sometime this week. I'll have to get this set up at the cottage because all of my polymer stuff is mostly there. So we'll see. All right. So I got a little bit of that done. Maybe in like 10 years, I'll finish it. No, it actually goes pretty quickly if I don't have anything else to do. But I only worked on this like an hour or two. And so I think I made some progress, but not as much as I would have liked. And then last night after our live, I don't even know what happened. I think William had a headache, so he laid down, and then we basically ate dinner and watched an episode of Project Runway, and then that was that. So, anyways, so I've been cleaning, as you can see, and I came across these, which I showed in a live how to texture these copper ginkgo leaf blanks. And I had wanted to put these into a kit, and so I spent all this time making these copper blanks, and then we never did it. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that maybe tonight. I don't know if William's up to it or not. He was at his other job today, so I kind of have to check in with him about that. But so we made these copper blanks, and so I would like to show how to, put those out into the world because I spent a lot of time making those. So I showed a video on how to texture those. So I also showed, I don't know if I showed it or not, but I thought I did, but I could be wrong, about how to have this like a crinkle effect. So it gives it a little bit more of a leaf shape. So I showed that. William says Monday, July 31st is the online Inspired by Reading meeting. And he listed the day or the link to where that you can find the link to that. So these ones, I found these. So I was like, well, why don't we put these in the online store? So hopefully we'll be able to do that. One of the other things that I found while I was going through stuff was these wooden bird and cloud pendants. And I loved this pendant. And I can't remember what I made it for. I must have made it for something. But I showed how to make these components. So you order, this is laser cut acrylic, and then I showed how to do this brick stitch fringe. But I can't remember where it was. But I found a bag of them, so I have some left over. So I don't know if we still have these online. We probably took them offline because they were a part of a kit, I believe. So I thought it might be cool to maybe show how to do this again, and we'll try to put these back on the website, just the component. And when we sell out of the component, then we'll be done with this component forever, I think, because I use some special acrylic, like this acrylic I can't get anymore, this fun glittery kind of galaxy acrylic. So I don't really want to start selling stuff and then not being able to fulfill the order. So you can order multiples of these and make earrings, and you can do that. I think at one point I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna do this and like make these for like a show or something, because we started doing shows for a hot minute, and then I was like, who am I kidding? I am too busy for this. Maybe like 1 or 2 shows a year, but I'm not gonna go back into the show circuit, at least not for now, hopefully. So anyway, so I thought it might be nice to show how to do this again in case people want. If you don't know how to do this, that's what I'm going to show today. Making this like the fringy component, not this part. And yeah, so I think they're fun. I think they're playful. Now, if you don't like this bird and cloud kind of component, You can do this on like a washer or whatever form you make. You can make it out of wire and then do this off of your wire form. So if you have, go to the hardware store and get some washers, for nuts and bolts, you can do this same technique and it's pretty cool. But it's not going to look exactly the same, of course, because you don't have this action right here. But yeah, so we've got these, and I hope people like them. I found some extras, and I thought it might be good to post them online, so we'll do that. We'll post the pendant part, and you can make them into an earring, or you can make them into a pendant. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully, if you saw this before, you don't get bored to tears. And be like, again. But yeah, so that's what we're going to make today. So I have my component, and this one is the wood one. And Teresa's asked in an email to William and AG Gallery, your Amazon affiliate link. For the book, if he, it should be in the Inspired by Reading group. If you want that for the When Women Were Dragons book. So if you want, but William, if he's watching, maybe he can pull that up and drop that into the comments. But anyway, so here's the blank. And like I said earlier, if you're not into this shape, you can make your own and, do whatever you want. One of the cool things about the stainless steel pieces that we had before is those would be excellent for this process because they are they have cutouts. And so if you have cutouts and like kind of straight-ish parts, you can do it in the round, but it does, if you're doing the fringe, sometimes it looks better if there's like a straight-ish part. It doesn't have to be completely straight, but if it, like, this is not completely straight, it's a little bit curved. But if you have, like, you can do it in the round, but it does certain things to the look of the fringe. So if you don't want the fringe, you can still do it and add like a little pop of color. But I would definitely recommend, if you're doing this to make the fringe, start with a component that has a straightish area. All right. So anyways, I've got some thread, and I have a needle, and I'm gonna string or thread up my needle. And let me get that ready. It's a size 10 needle, but if you want to use a size 12 or whatever, you can do that. This is a thermally bonded thread, and I believe it's a 6-pound thread. So you can use that. You can use whatever you want, really. But so you kind of have to pick which side you're going to start on. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to start maybe on this side. So I'm going to take my needle, and that's been strung up. I'm going to go through my component. William said the bird pendants are online still. I thought they were in a kit. Anyways, I don't know what's going on. I'll ask him more about this later. All right, so you're gonna take this and work it down to when you get to the end of your thread, and give yourself about a 4 or 5 inch tail. And that's so that when you weave that back in, you're not pulling your hair out trying to weave in an inch tail. And then, so you take the end, I don't know how well, I'm gonna actually take that off the back so you can see the white thread. You're gonna make an overhand knot, like so. and then you're going to knot it again. Now, I'm not going to say that you need to like He-Man this style of knot, but just make that knot secure so it doesn't come loose. But as you weave it, it will be a little bit better. So I'm not going to put this, I'm going to try to angle it in a way that it's where I want my brick stitch to start. All right. And then I'm using size 8 seed beads for this. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to put this off to the side. And there you go. So I've got these seed beads of like a greenish kind of olive color. We got a ton of seed beads. We ordered the containers for the seed beads, but they're delayed. So I don't know when those are going to arrive, but then we'll start bagging or containering them up. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is pick up 2 seed beads, and then I'm going to walk this down until it hits my component. I'm going to kind of adjust it so that they hit so that the knot where it comes out hits kind of in the middle of this. I don't want this to be off to the side, either side. I want the knot to be in the middle. All right. So I'm going to hold this in place, and then I'm going to pick up 2 more seed beads. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath my wood component on that kind of negative space, go through that hole. And then I'm going to pull this down and until it gets to, so that the beads get close to the bottom right there. And then I'm going to go back up through those 2 beads. So really you're adding 4 and you're going up through the last 2. But I think it's for instruction purposes, it makes a little bit more sense to say that you're adding the 2 and then you're going to add the 2 instead of saying you're adding the 4. I guess it just depends on how you look at things. All right. And so then you go back up through those 2, and that forms the base of the brick stitch. Now, right now, it's a little bit wonkadoodle. So what I like to do is, now that I've got this, they're kind of at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up through the first row and then down through the second row. And then that's going to help tighten and compress those so that they're more, so the two rows sit closer, more side by side. All right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2 more beads. I'm going to repeat the one step again. So go up through my wooden component until it comes down through right here. And then I'm going to go up through those 2 beads. And William is sharing where to find affiliate links for the books and also for, I think he was sharing the link for these pendants. But yeah. So good. Then we don't have to, I don't know what happened, but yeah. So I have these and I'm just going to repeat until I go all the way across. Now, when I did it originally for this, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows so that I could have an odd number of rows so that I could have this kind of staggered, fringe. And so if you want to do that, you can do that. If you're using different size beads, because you can use whatever size beads you want, that will determine how big, or that will change how many rows you can do. So if you use bigger beads, you're going to have to use smaller, you're going to have to use fewer rows. If you're doing smaller beads, you're going to have to do more rows. I would suggest doing an odd row or odd number of rows, so that you can, you can have it if you're going to do that graduated fringe, then it will look right. If you don't, then you're not going to have a center point. You're going to have like two in the center being the longest ones. Now, one thing that you have to be mindful of is if you're stitching in the back crosses, like how I did here, you just want to kind of straighten that out and then separate it out and then adjust your tension and pull a little bit tighter. That way you don't want it to cross because the stitching becomes like a decorative element, especially depending on the color of thread you use. Some of these, if you are using like a black or a smoke colored thread and you get the black one, then it kind of disappears. But if you do something like this one, I used a smoke colored thread on this kind of midnight colored pendant, it kind of disappears. But with like the wood, it becomes like a decorative element. So depending on what you use, the color of the thread you use, it'll determine if if you can see those or not. So I kind of like the clear or the crystal because it's almost like top stitching on clothing. I think that's a pretty cool kind of effect. Now, one thing that I did is if you want, you don't necessarily have to pull this all the way up once you kind of know what you're doing. You can have it come down, hang down loose like that. And if you know you have to go up through those, then you can do it kind of not so close to the pendant and then just pull it tighter when you get to it. And you can do it that way also. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll do one more row, picking up 2 beads. And there you go. And then we go down through these ones like so for the last section there. All right. And then I'm going to pull kind of tight. And also before I pull too tight, I'm going to adjust this so that it's where I want it to be. So I'm going to kind of space stuff out so that the stitches are exactly where I want them to be. And I know that's kind of a fiddly thing, but it does help so that they don't get all kind of crossed over. Now I'm going to add a half hitch knot. And I don't know if I showed this originally, but I'm going to go underneath this thread bridge. And let's create that loop. And I'm going to go through that loop. And then I'm going to pull tight. And that's going to just help keep these all kind of together and not like moving around. It keeps the tension kind of in place, because if I don't do that, I can still do everything that I'm going to do next, except then I just have to constantly like adjust it and pull it and stuff. And it's a little bit more, it's not as free flowing as if if I don't do that knot. So then I have to constantly kind of hold this still while I'm working and adjust it. But that knot kind of holds it in place. Now, if you have a long piece of thread and you want to bind and make this a little bit tighter and a little bit more like together, because right now they're kind of spaced out, all you have to do is weave this, since the thread is coming out the end here, you place this up through this next row and then come down through the next row, and you just weave it back and forth, and that also will help keep your row pretty tight. The only issue with this, is if your beads that you're using are smaller, because you can only get so many thread passes through. but these are size 8 seed beads and the holes are quite ample. So, yeah, so you don't have to worry about that so much with these. The other concern is if you run out of thread for your fringe. Now, you can always add more, but I kind of feel like if you add more, it's just more stuff to weave in at the end. And then I'm just going to give it a little tug, and that's going to make it nice and sturdy. All right. So I'm going to pick up um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads. So I'm going to pick up 5 of these size 8 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to walk these all the way down to the base. And then I'm going to pick up 1 bead. And I'm going to go back up through the 5 beads. And I'm going to go up through only one of that kind of parent row. See what I mean? I could go up through the whole thing, but I'm just going to go up through just this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next row. I'm going to go down through this bead here. So I'm going to kind of have to split that apart and go through that. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can certainly go up through here and go all the way down. I think that this just makes it a little bit sturdier because you're getting stitching. Right now, this row, these these rows up here have 2 beads each, and they're kind of a little bit wonkadoodle. And so what I mean by that is they're kind of going off here, going off there, and so it kind of comes at different angles. So if you want this to be a tighter kind of look and have it be more rectangular or more square like, then that's how you do that. All right, so I'm going to pick up 6 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to place these all the way down. And I'm going to pick up another seed bead. I'm going to go up through the 6 plus 1. And then I'm going to pull that taut. And then I'm going to go down to the next row, and I'm going to go through just that bottom one right there in the next row. But you see what I mean? It's causing a little grid going on through here, so it makes it a little bit nicer. And they sit more uniformly next to each other. So I'm going to pick up. I did 5, 6. This is going to be 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to place these down at the bottom here. I'm going to pick up a bead, go back up through the 7 plus the 1 from the original row. And then I'm going to go next door into the next row and go through that bottom one right there. All right, so this is the midpoint. So I've got 3 on this side, 1 in the middle here, and 3 on this side. So this is going to be my longest one. I added 7 in here, so I'm going to add 8 here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then I'm going to add 1 more, and then I'm going to go up through that 8th that I just added, plus the 1 from the original row, just 1, not 2. All right, and sometimes it helps. I find with fringe, if I lay my piece down, because then I'm not working against gravity. Sometimes if I don't do that, then it feels like I'm going a little bit crazy because it's all wanting to go all over place. So the next thing I'm going to do, since I'm on the decrease now, I'm going to add 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I'm going to put these close to the base. I'm going to add 1 more and then go up through the 7 plus 1 from the original row. And then I'm going to hop over into the next row and continue this pattern. So for this next row, I'm going to do 6, and then I'm going to do the next row with 5. So easy peasy, pots of peasy. Not quite set it and forget it, but still pretty easy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Have I lulled everybody to sleep yet, like counting sheep? So I go back up through the 6 plus 1, and then I come over to the next row, the last row. And it's a pretty good thing that I'm coming up to the last row because I'm running out of thread. And I don't want to add more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to add 1 more. And I'm going to go up through both beads. Not just one. I'm going to go up through both. All right. And then what I'm going to go is I'm going to go through my wood component. And then I'm going to come back around. And I'm going to go through just 1 from that row. And then I'm going to tie my knot. If you have a longer piece of thread, you may be able to weave it back through a couple different times. But since this is getting shorter, I'm going to do that like so. And then go up through that kind of half hitch knot. Make sure it doesn't catch on any of my fringe. And then tighten accordingly. It's nice and tight. And then I'm going to cut off the tail. This is a good time if you want to use a thread burner or whatever. One day I'll have it in my life to have that. And then I just kind of adjust these. So if that means spreading them out a little bit, this top stitch, so that they kind of hang where I want them to hang. And then the next thing I can do is weave this in through again. So for this tail, I want this tail. I can go back around and tighten up some of this top stitch here if I wanted to, if I had enough, or I can just kind of do a couple rows, or I can weave this through here and tighten that up. If it's long enough, I could actually go back through my fringe. If for like an earring or whatever, that's not essential because the fringe is not like a structural component. It's kind of like a decoration or embellishment. So it's not like it needs to be like super sturdy. If it was like yesterday, I showed that check glass sleeve bracelet, and for that you definitely have to go through multiple times so that it's structurally sound. Otherwise you're hanging by a thread. With this, since it's fringe, it's okay if it's only got 1 pass through, and it's actually got 2 because you go back up through it. But you don't necessarily have to go through again unless you really want to for some reason. I mean, if you want to go through, the only thing that will do is it will make this a little bit more stiff. So there you go. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thread this up on my needle, and then I'm going to pass it through a couple times and then tie it off and trim it, and then I'll be done. Cheryl says, I'll be trying this on a couple of your wooden and acrylic pendants. Love these tutorials. Thank you. I'm glad that people seem to be liking them. I think it's one of those things where we got, because William's taking his classes and stuff, I'm able to do more of these. It is a little bit more challenging to figure out the workflow of when we're gonna, like, what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. And I don't really add products online, so and sometimes if you're having a problem where your thread is splitting or something is happening, you can always cut your thread at an angle, and that's going to make the end into a little bit of a needle. So just keep that in mind because sometimes that helps. I'm going to do this close to my face because I'm having a problem threading this on camera at like holding my arms out. All right. Sometimes I get this where the thread just doesn't want to go on the needle. So I'm just going to trim it again. And by the time I trim it, it's probably going to be trimmed all the way to the quick. I need to get those sharp scissors because I've been using these dull scissors, and they normally I have a piece of or a thing or a nail clipper, and that kind of helps to trim the thread in a pinch. But since I'm at home, I was like, oh, I don't need that. And then now I'm missing my nail trimmers here. All right. So, did I get it? Did I get it? Yeah, for some reason that was real stubborn. I don't know what was up with that. All right, so I'm going to go back through. I cut pretty much a lot of this off, so there isn't a whole heck of a lot of room to be doing this. But I'm going to go through this one bead, and then I'm going to tie it off and add that half hitch knot, and then I'll be done. Now, if I wanted to, I could add beaded embellishments to this. So we sold a bunch of daggers. So instead of like a bead at the end here, you could put a dagger there. That could be fun. Oh wow. I'm just going to use this because I'm not going to try to thread that again because that was kind of a little bit, I had split the thread for some reason. And yeah, that's not my favorite when that happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in between here like so in that negative space. And if it's a problem, I can always use my pliers and gently persuade it. So this is kind of like a troubleshooting because sometimes this happens even to the best of us. So I'm just going to use that and push it. And it didn't go through. Well, so this one, I'm going to have to angle it a little bit. There we go. And it's stuck to the pliers. Great. Anyways, all I'm doing is tying a knot. In theory, it should not be a problem. But for whatever reason, it's being stubborn. So and trim that mess off at the end. And then I'll pull this little tail up. So if you ever wanted to watch somebody struggle with a knot, I mean, it's not terrible, but usually I just do that without even thinking. But for some reason, It's a little bit more of a headache today. All right, so there we go. And then I'm going to trim this off and we're going to be done. Marion said, just not a naughty situation. Yeah, I know. You're telling me those knots have been naughty. All right, so there we go. We made this little fringy action, and I hope people like that. If you like that, we've got these pendants in the online store apparently, and William listed a link that's on the allegorygallery.com, and you can have this little fringe. But there's a lot of ways of embellishing these. So if you wanted to, you could paint this. That's fun. It's always fun. You can use vintage patina paints to kind of get on there and then heat set it, and it will really stick, and you don't have to do any prep work. If you do want to paint with like acrylic paint, I would say scuff up the surface a little bit, wipe it down with some alcohol to clean it, and then put a layer of gesso. Let that dry, and then you can paint on it. I've done a couple different tutorials on how to add color to these wooden components. So if you're ever stuck on different things, you can always go to our playlist online and check those out and just do a search in there, and that should come up. And I've done, there's like 40 different techniques that I've shown how to embellish the surfaces of um, these wooden components that we make. So if you're ever stuck about that, you can always ask a question on the live, and I'll always try to do my best to answer your question. But we also have an archive of information. So that's one of the nice things. It is a searchable archive in YouTube. So if you go through and look on our thing and you look for a certain stitch, that should pop up relatively easily, and then you can catch up on anything that you may have missed, or if you missed something and then you want to revisit it, you can always do that. There you go. All right, so there's that. And yeah, so if you wanted to do this with a different base, you could do that with a different base, in case you don't like the bird pendants. All right. Well, I don't really have anything else to show. I'll let you know. We'll be back tomorrow. William's at his ceramics class, so I'll be doing another tutorial. I'm going to try to get down to the cottage tomorrow for it. I think what I'm going to do is making bald head pins. Not bald like how I'm bald on my head, but like bald like I balled up some aluminum foil. And we'll do that maybe tomorrow. William got me some butane because I wanted to show with a butane torch, because not everybody has a big torch like how I do. And I used a butane torch for years and years to make my stuff. So as long as you have things that are smallish, then it's not a problem. If you want to do bigger pieces with multiple solder joints and stuff, you definitely need to do upscale to a larger torch. It's just you just can't get your piece hot enough and have it even and consistent enough heat to make things flow if you don't. So just keep that in mind. So tomorrow, I think we're going to do head pins. I've showed it before, but I figured we can show it again. And I also thought that maybe we can, I might have some other ideas to make that a little bit more fun for people who may have seen it already. So I need to hunt around the studio tonight and look for some certain ingredients. But it'll be a way to jazz that up. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching. We so much appreciate all of you out there. Um, we are so thankful for all of you who keep us going. And Of course, if you need anything, just email us at info@allegorygallery.com. You can always check out on shop online in our website. That's www.allegorygallery.com. And yeah, that's probably the best place. But if you don't see something that you're looking for and you want to show your support for us, you can always email us at info@allegorygallery.com, and we'll be happy to help you if we can. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you back tomorrow with another tutorial. Okay. Bye bye.